are not doing a goddamn ASMR episode. Alright? Now shut the fuck up. By the way, I'm Wild. This is Oscar. We're going to be talking today about... Who do you think has a good shot at the presidency?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We've seen a whole bunch of people pop up.
Trump is going to win.
You think Trump is going to win 2020?
Trump is going to win.
2020.
The only person who has a chance of beating him is Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And the Democrats will never allow Bernie Sanders to secure the nomination.
You know what? I actually think they might just let him this time. I think they learned their lesson last time from what the fuck they did, because they don't have a Hillary this time. The Democrats don't have.
They have Beto O'Rourke.
Beto
O'Rourke is Hillary.
Beto O'Rourke definitely is not their Hillary.
He is Hillary with a dick.
He's definitely not their Hillary. He's
white
entirely.
Obama.
He's entirely okay. I will give you that he is looking like white Obama right now, but at least Obama was actually in office. All Beto O'Rourke has is a failed run for the Senate.
No, he's a representative.
Was he? And where?
He is a representative in Texas.
Oh, in Texas? Yeah.
No, he is a...
What is he? What's Beto O'Rourke?
Is he a state rep or a federal rep? I think he sits in the House of Reps.
Does he?
Hold on a second.
I mean, you could Google it, but in the meantime... Pull that up. But, in the meantime, so right now it looks like we've got, of the three big names that we've got going right now, we've got Bernie Sanders running again, which seems to be going pretty good, going strong. No one's stopping him. There's not a whole lot of pushback. And then there's Warren, who's also thrown a hat in the ring, who apparently probably has a decent chance. He's another one of the big names, at least, that people have tossed around for president. And then there's Beto O'Rourke, who's something of the,
Yeah, he was...
the dark horse.
O'Rourke was represented Texas's 16th congressional district for 3 terms in the United States House of Representatives.
Okay, so he was a congressman.
Also, his name is Robert.
Beto O'Rourke?
His name is Robert.
Okay.
Beto is a nickname.
Yeah. But that's what everyone's going to be calling him.
Call him Robert. His name is Robert.
I'm going to keep calling him Beto O'Rourke, because that's the only way I know him as.
Robert O'Rourke.
Beto. It's the only thing I know him as. I don't know Warren's first name.
Elizabeth.
Alright, well now I know her first name. Elizabeth Warren, there we go.
Also Lizzie, or Lizzie G.
I don't think anyone calls her that. Didn't the president call her Liz once?
Probably.
Like, in a really condescending way, he was like, Liz.
He's kind of an asshole. I don't know if you've noticed.
That's a fair point. So, why do you think Bernie Sanders won't have a chance this time? Who would the Democrats put up instead of him?
In my worst nightmares, Kamala Harris.
All right, outside of your worst nightmare, and let's stick to the reality that we have right now. We've got a bunch of people running on the Democrats because no one gives a fuck about the Republican side because they're all fucking insane and
it's a toss-up between
Trump, so.
Booker and Warren at the moment. I think.
You think? I haven't even heard of Booker.
Cory Booker.
Okay, I've heard the name, but I haven't heard much talk about him in the context of running for president.
He's been in U.S. federal politics for a while, and the general consensus on him has been he's going to run for president as soon as he's old enough.
And is he doing so now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, mind you, if Joe Biden ever actually announces his campaign, he might be the Democratic frontrunner.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't particularly want Biden to run anymore either. Maybe right after, like, if his son... hadn't died, I would have been, and he had run after Obama, I would have been okay with that. Out of the options we had until Bernie Sanders showed up, I would have taken Biden over Hillary any day, and I think he would have had a much better chance of actually getting the presidency. But, like, at this point, we have too many better options than Biden, and the only reason Biden would run now is because...
I think he should run as a Republican.
There you go. Oh, we actually Will suggested that yesterday.
No, I think Joe Biden should run as a Republican, primary Donald Trump.
There we go. Fuck it, go for it, right? We've got nothing to lose. Try to bring the Republicans back to the side of sanity. At that point, though, it's not yet. See, that kind of relates back to my issue of the way, like, just historically, because I'm not a poli-sci major. I'm a history major, and so historically, I feel like we're in that section of time where the political parties are about to change again. because the Republican Party has already been shifting over the last 10 years farther and farther to the right. The Tea Party is no longer referred to as the Tea Party because they're just the conservative party at this point. They're the center of the conservative party.
Yeah.
So, the crazy far-right people became the center of the conservatives, and then you have the people to the far right of them, but nobody's left enough to even be still viable of dealing with Democrats. And we're in that part of where the political parties are shifting again, and I think, thanks to Trump, I just don't see them maintaining stability enough as an actual significant political party anymore. But it brings me to the idea of Biden running as a Republican, because it brings me to the fact that I think because we're always going to have a two-party system, no matter what. That's just never going to go away. We're terrible at not having that.
It's an inevitable outcome of a first past the post voting system.
Yeah, exactly. So I think instead what we're going to end up with the Democrats splitting into two parties, with one side of the Democrats going more Bernie Sanders-y, and one side of the Democrats going more baseline what Republicans should have been. Baseline fiscal conservativity, what the Republicans were back, in 2000. Because you saw what, people were hailing McCain as, before he died, as, oh, look, he's this great because he's so reasonable and yada yada, and towards the Democrats and stuff, but he clearly wasn't, in with the Republican Party anymore, because he wasn't crazy far right like all the rest of what the Republican Party has become. So I think what's going to happen is, with Biden switching over to Republican, is the Democrats are going to split into two parties, and one is going to take over that role.
I think that you may be mistaking surface appearances for structural factors.
Could be.
For instance, John McCain was nowhere near as estranged from the majority of his party as people like to say. The only reason that he was quote unquote against Trump is because he personally disliked the man.
Right.
There was no conflict of material interests between them.
Right.
And no real conflict of ideology either.
To be fair, McCain was in fact a massive piece of shit. We just ignored that near the end of his life because he was old and dying, literally.
Yeah.
Also, we have this massive tendency in the United States to suddenly glorify people as they get old and die, and ignore the fact they were all terrible people their entire lives. Fun, interesting fact about McCain, his campaign against Obama is what started the concept of attacking people on that level. His campaign ads, in that he's the one that his campaign and him specifically who started that concept of, hey, he's a Muslim, or get his birth certificate, and that level of attacking against your political opponent, rather than attacking on the issues, attacking the insane person nonsense that we have now. Bernie Sanders is a crazy socialist communist who wants to make Russia exist, and all that jazz. McCain's campaign is against Obama is what started that level of attack ads.
In terms of the federal presidential election, you're probably correct, but I would just like to point out that the Hillary Clinton campaigns for the Democratic primary in 2008, did the same things that the McCain campaign did.
Fair.
And also a significant portion of Hillary voters defected to the Republicans after Obama was named the Democratic candidate.
That feels like it kind of supports my theory of the fact that the Democrats are just going to take over the role of the Republicans as the Democrats split between Bernie Sanders and Hillary's side of bullshit.
They didn't switch party allegiances. They just voted for McCain in one election.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It points to the concept that there's a significant portion of Democrats that don't support the kind of, like, Bernie Sanders' politics and would rather support politics like the early 2000s Republican policies.
Oh, no, you're right about that.
Right.
It's just that that's what the Democratic Party is and what it will always be.
That's where I disagree. I don't think it's going to keep being that. I think people like Bernie Sanders and his type of politics are going to continue gaining steam and more steam in the Democratic Party because it's Democrat right now. And I think it's going to fracture the Democratic Party. And the Republican Party is mostly just kind of going to... The problem right now is there's no other party. And there's a two-party system. And everyone agrees the right is fucking insane. But what are they going to do? Not vote Republican? That's why I think the Democratic Party is going to split into another party, and all those people who wish they could vote for the early 2000s Republicans but don't have that option anymore because those don't exist anymore in any party are going to start voting for that new party that splits off.
I would love for that to happen. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
What do you think is going to happen instead?
What I think is going to happen is that essentially both sides of the political establishment will unite against Bernie Sanders and anyone to the left of him, and begin repressing like actual leftists. And as a result, both parties will drift slightly left again to try and capture certain voters, but not actually concede ground.
See,
there will be a slight backlash against Trump once he is out of office in 2024.
keep that dream alive.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna win 2020.
I just don't think he is. I think
then look, if Reagan could win re-election, Trump can.
Okay, different. Not as different as I'd like it to be, but I think with what we saw in the midterms, which gives me hope. And again, I'm an optimist on this subject, and I personally think that if Trump has done anything, it's to mobilize the youth and the people who used to be just not giving a fuck about politics and voting. And I think what he's done a decent job of accidentally mobilizing those people against him. And suddenly a lot of us, the standard voting block of people who vote are always the middle-aged to older people. And I think what's happening now is we're seeing a swell of the youth vote actually coming out and saying, hey, wait a minute. We can participate in this, and we should be participating in this. And we didn't see it as much in the midterms as we would have liked, but we did see it happen. There was a bit of a push there, and we did get some hints of it. And I think the problem is the scale of the elections. Like, because the presidential elections, as our country has built it up into, is just on a whole nother, like, magnitudes larger of a scale of how many people give a fuck about it than the midterms do. And that's why I see the midterms as a good hint and a good indication that that swell is happening and coming from the youth. And again, I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to be able to be pushed. I don't think they're going to be able to push Bernie Sanders out because that swell is happening, and because as time goes on, our generation, the millennial generation, is getting into that middle age range. Like, there's millennials right now who are like 35, almost 40. And as time goes on more and more, I don't think they're going to be able to keep. I think the cat is basically out of the bag as far as Bernie Sanders' policies and ideas go, with the idea of going that left direction.
I would like you to be right. I would like for electoralism and the political process to be able to rebalance the American political system. I just don't think it's very likely. The structural factors, the way that the whole U.S. system is set up, I are just really strongly structured against that. It's... It would almost take a revolution to actually change the American political institutions, the American political landscape enough to allow genuinely leftist candidates to start winning.
I just don't think it's going to actually take that much to do.
Let me revise that. American leftist candidates may win, but they will be able to do nothing.
Well, that's just an issue with politics right now being, rather than people in office campaigning and wanting to do things, whether it be things for themselves or like things that you like or not. The problem is politics in America has actually worked really well because the politicians, and the idea is everyone who goes to Congress wants to accomplish their goals. They want to accomplish something. They go there because they have goals. They want to do something. They want to get what they want done and accomplished. It's passionate towards that. Shit like that is what leads to like the caning of Sumner. You know, that the people were passionate enough about wanting to get their things done and their goals done that it leads them to do things like that. The problem is right now we don't have people getting elected who have those kinds of passions. Instead, everyone campaigns on the concept of, I will stop them from doing something. But no one comes in with their own goals that they're trying to accomplish. Except, we're seeing, I feel like we're seeing it in Bernie Sanders, a return to that. Because, again, he's from the old style of politics because he's been there forever. I feel like he's one of those candidates that is campaigning on the concept of, I'm trying to accomplish something and not stop other people from accomplishing things. 80% of the 80% of the people you see campaigning now always talk about, I just want to stop them from doing things. 80% of their campaigns are just attack ads and saying, I'll make sure the Democrats don't get to do what they want, and the Democrats are saying, I'll make sure the Republicans don't get to eat the poor.
I think that you may be reversing cause and effect here.
Oh?
I think that you have attributed the status quo bias of the U.S. political establishment to the actions of the people within the establishment. But I put it the other way around. The people who are in the establishment act right now as they act because they have realized that is the only thing that they can do within the system. You can only delay. You can only impede.
But
because the entire U.S. political system, from the very beginning, was set up to preserve the status quo.
Yeah.
It has only ever been through external action that change has arrived in the American political system.
When you say external, what are you referring to?
Let's starting at the very beginning of American history.
Right.
The Whiskey Rebellion.
Right. So by external action, you're talking about people outside of the political political circles, as in the people, with say the civil rights movement.
Yes.
That kind of thing. Those basically those mini revolts and revolutions that we've had throughout our country that have led to political change.
Society changes.
Right. The political system doesn't want to change.
The government resists change.
Right.
And society changes to such a point at which the government has to adjust.
Right.
It codifies that as the new normal.
Right.
And then society progresses.
Mm-hmm.
The government resists.
Right.
And maybe my view on this is a little pessimistic, a little hopeless. But I definitely see.
What makes you think that we're not at the point where the government is forced to readjust?
because the government as a whole readjusts.
Yeah.
It's not just individuals.
No.
It's not that like a new crop of fresh-faced young politicos come in and say this is the new normal now. No, what happens is people who are currently in power look at the political landscape and are like, okay, fine, we'll get with the times.
I mean, to be fair, that's what has happened in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it's in the opposite direction that me and you want.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what's happened in the Republicans has changed over the last 10 years to better match that kind of what's the right side of the fucking crazy people are.
Except that
and the Democrats just
the political right
haven't.
in the United States is actually tiny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why, again, I think the Democrats are going to take that bigger chunk again. The reason that
the Republicans have shifted themselves to obey that tiny segment of the population is because that tiny segment of the population is extremely loud and extremely rich.
Yeah. I mean, that relates to the fact that the entire system is based on an oligarchy, rather.
I mean, yeah, but
that's another major difference in how history-wise. I think history might be one of the reasons why I'm more optimistic about this than you, because I'm less inside of it. I focus less on the micro-politics of it and the examination of exactly how the government functions and what happens in there. I look at the broad strokes of how history has adjusted over time and how the nation as a whole and how it's all over and over done what it does and how it functions on a larger scale. And it just seems like we're in one of those points where a readjustment's going to happen. And a major shift is going to happen. And it doesn't usually take an actual massive revolution so much as some massive thing culturally tying the people together, saying, hey, change has to happen because everything's fucked. It's got FDR into the office. I mean, FDR managed to be so successful because all the people stood up and said, hey, wait a minute, everything is shit, it needs to be different. Because, hey, look, something just went terribly wrong. I think the Great Depression, in their case. I think in our case, what's gone terribly wrong is Trump got elected. And all the people are suddenly standing up and saying, oh shit, what the fuck just happened? Something has gone terribly wrong in our system if Trump can get elected. Also, the fact that millennials are starving to death on the street, but we're, Yeah. They managed to do that, so they managed to poison the waters on that economically slowly enough that we haven't caught on to that fast enough, en masse enough.
Well, that's why
But again... Yeah.
That's why I don't think we're at that point yet. We're approaching it, but I think it's still 10, 20 years down the road. I'd
say we're either there now, or we're 5 years away from it, I'd say, at best.
I would say that we're going to finish Trump's 2 full terms.
Still don't think that's going to happen.
Go through 2 full terms of a Democratic president.
A basic bitch Democrat, Hillary Democrat.
And then there will be another Republican who fucks things up so spectacularly, or under whose watch things are fucked up so spectacularly, that they will have to change.
I think what's going to happen is if we do get another Trump term, I think what's going to happen so I've been talking about how the Democratic Party I think is going to split into 2 pieces. I think up until just now, what I've been misthinking of is the concept that the part that's going to split off from Democrats would be the ones going more towards conservative values. Whereas I think what's actually going to be happening is the Bernie Sanders part of it is the one that's going to split off and form their own party.
Or maybe just join the DSA.
The DSA?
Democratic Socialists of America?
Right, exactly. But they're no longer going to be termed as the Democratic Party anymore. That's the part that's going to split off. Whereas the Democratic Party is going to stay the Democratic Party, but Bernie Sanders' branches of it and half of it are going to turn into their own political party that rises up to be able to challenge them. Meanwhile, the Republicans just keep dwindling and dwindling to not obscurity because they keep going farther and farther to the smaller and smaller portions of the population.
I mean,
they'll still exist for a decent while, but they're going to be losing enough power within the next 2 election cycles, I would say, that they're just going to become irrelevant.
If nothing changes,
right,
between now and then, or rather, if things continue on the trajectory they're continuing on,
right,
you may very well be correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, politics has a trend of taking wild, hard turns to whatever direction you can imagine without people realizing it even just a few days ahead of time. There's a lot of black swans in American political history. Sorry, do you not...
I've never seen Black Swan.
Oh, no.
No, I don't think you're referring to the movie. I assume you're referring to a specific concept.
A black swan is this idea of you can have an inductively correct statement that is one that is internally logically consistent,
right,
and based on accurate observations of the world, but nonetheless is wrong because your observations did not embrace the full breadth of experience.
Right.
That is to say, in the classic example, you could say all swans are white. That is, swans, a defining characteristic of whiteness of swans is whiteness.
Right.
And then you go to Australia and you see a black swan, which is a species native to Australia, and you realize, oh, turns out not all swans are white, and there is no way that I could have predicted this using the information available to me.
Right. Okay. So, okay.
So you are making an inductive argument about the course of American politics.
Right.
What I'm saying is, your inductive argument is logically sound and based on good observations.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's what's going to happen.
Right. Okay. I see where you're coming from.
And we've had enough just weird fucking happenings.
Right.
Unexpected things that...
Fair enough. I mean, it is America. Unexpected weird shit does happen on a regular basis throughout our history. Though, looking back on it, half the time it's not nearly as actually insane and odd. When you look back on it, you go, oh, no, wait, that's obvious that was going to happen.
That's the other thing about black swans, that in retrospect,
it
seems real dumb.
Yeah, it seems obvious that, oh, of course there are black swans.
Yeah.
I suppose that's fair. I always try to, when I apply history to the modern age and what I think is going to happen based on that, I always try to imagine looking back at it retrospectively. It's like, is there something I'm missing like that black swan idea? Am I missing the black swans somewhere along the way? And I look back at the moments in American history when weird shit did happen that we now say, well, of course that was going to happen. It was obviously building to that. And I think I've been adjusting a lot of my the way I look at history and the way I try to apply it to the world with a major focus on the weird stuff that history does and the more obscure nonsense that goes on that leads to insane things. And I've tried to take that into account, which is one of the reasons that I'm supporting Bernie Sanders in this next election.
Oh, me too.
Absolutely, I'm hoping he'll win, but I would not be surprised if Beto came up instead. Also, I know nothing about Warren and whether or not she's going to go anywhere. I just don't. She just isn't on my radar because she's just. It's just not there.
Elizabeth Warren...
She doesn't have the energy that Sanders and Beto have right now. As far as I can tell, there's no large...
Beto doesn't have any energy of his own. It's all hype drummed up by media and the Democratic management.
But it's working for him.
That's true, but also
as far as
I guess what I'm saying is that if Sanders style ideas were more widely accepted among the Democratic establishment, Elizabeth Warren would be the Beto O'Rourke,
right?
Because she's about halfway between Hillary and Sanders.
Yeah.
And by that I mean that, she is in favor of some social democratic policies, but she's also the kind of, means testing, never do anything out without pulling it 5 times.
Yeah.
Classic technocratic Democrat.
So, I feel like Beto O'Rourke, as far as, energy goes, in the midterms, I feel like in the midterms he accidentally seized a bunch of energy was seized for him, not necessarily by him, because he was just running in Texas. But the media pulled fuck tons of energy to him, and then America's a whole, Americans all over the nation were like, oh, look at Beto O'Rourke in Texas. He's going against Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz had energy because everyone was paying attention to Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz ran for president and lost. So he's in the zeitgeist of attention. And then Beto O'Rourke was challenging him, which brought Beto's name into the zeitgeist of the culture and internet, and then suddenly everyone paid attention to him and made him the focus of things instead of Ted, because no one cares about Ted, because fuck Ted Cruz.
Nobody likes him.
Nobody likes Ted Cruz, whereas Beto seems very much like a very likable Democrat who is fighting the odds. He's the exact kind of bullshit underdog that we like. And the media and American culture as a whole gave him that energy. And I think he's carrying that energy into the primary right now.
In Texas, Beto O'Rourke is the kind of bullshit underdog we like.
Yeah.
In the rest of the nation, he's just a mainstream Democrat.
Yeah.
Because, no offense,
but he was wearing blue jeans on a dirt road.
Insane conservative.
We'll put Texas in a really specifically as a Texan. I've got to say the problem is not that Texas is insanely conservative. The problem is Texas sells itself to the rest of the nation as insanely conservative. Texans as a whole, when you go into Texas and as a Texan living there, knowing people there, and knowing the culture of actual the cities specifically where the major population centers are, it's very fucking democratic.
Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, those are all pretty blue areas.
Yeah, the problem is trying to take back the sea of red. Because we're blue dots in the sea of red.
The entire western half of the state. The entire western half of the state is extremely, extremely conservative because it's 2 people per voting district.
Yeah. And that's hard to overcome. But as far as Texas overall culture, I would argue is more towards the feeling of Democrats rather than Republicans. But Texas sells itself to the nation as conservative because that's what works. Because that's what works for them. It's
not even that necessarily. It's Texas's federal and state governments are more conservative than the population of Texas as a whole.
Yeah.
Because conservative counties and districts are overrepresented.
Yeah. Which is another issue.
Gerrymandering.
Another major issue with the entire political system we have right now is that it's not population based. It's based on space, and I'm like, what the fuck do I care if this piece of land is bigger than the city that has 1 million people in it? The laws affect people, not land. The laws should better reflect the will of the people, not the will of the amount of the fucking land. We're not making laws to give a fuck about this giant empty fucking Montana. We're making laws that affect the 3 million people that live in fucking San Antonio, who are going to be far more affected by it than the 5 people that live in West Texas.
The thing is that to make the areas population equal, you would have to cut up San Antonio into 100 voting districts.
Yeah.
Which is absurd.
I mean, it already is a fuck ton of different voting districts.
Sure.
But
I mean,
yeah.
unless you
what
want...
I'm saying is
if
something
you-
should be done to
if
balance
you don't
out.
want voting districts that are basically literally just one city block each.
I think what what I think we should do is just get rid of all voting districts and make it purely one vote towards for each individual citizen has the same exact voting power as another citizen. Completely get rid of the rest of the bullshit. Go much closer towards the concept of a pure democracy.
What, have each
My vote in San Antonio counts as much as the asshole vote in West Texas.
You're talking about the federal elections, obviously, but
for the most, yeah.
You would have each,
because when you get down to local, it gets
have every single person running for one of how many
fuck if I know, man.
Representative seats does Texas have?
No idea. I'm by the time I left Texas, I was not involved in politics, and I have not gone back enough since to start getting back into it. I'm in Alaska right now, so what do you want from me? How many do they have? They've got to have a decent number, right? I mean, it's a big state.
Tell me.
It's a big state.
Come on, Wikipedia.
Both space and
reveal your
population.
secrets to me. 36 members.
Okay.
So, Texas has 36 representative seats.
Right.
So what you're basically proposing is that
every single time, everyone votes for one of those, like all of them together.
Well, no, you would vote for 36
different seats.
Each every person
has to know
would
all
vote
36
individually on each of the 36 seats.
Yes.
Which, I guess that's
it's not unreasonable idea. The problem is
it would be easier.
It relies on the concept of people having to get informed on politics, which is something we've spent the last couple decades telling people they don't have to do.
Well, the right way to do that would be to institute a voting system like some of the European nations, where instead of voting for candidates, you just vote for a party.
Right.
And then the party,
I mean, that's how half of it happens now anyway. You can just hit Democrat on the machine, and it'll just go, all the Democrats now have your vote.
Yeah. And obviously, with the first past the post system, it doesn't work very well. No. Look at the UK.
Yeah. Well, there's always the Australian voting system, where it's 1 through, you number them, and you rank them, and that's how it's done, which I personally prefer.
Of course, the Australians also have mandatory voting.
Yeah, gee, that's another thing we should probably pick up here.
How dare you?
How dare you force me to vote?
You authoritarian piece of shit. You absolute Nazi.
Fuck you. If you want to be a citizen of this goddamn country, you should be required to participate in the political system that is keeping your goddamn rights intact. Alright? You don't get to be a passive observer of the entire system that keeps giving you all the bullshit privileges you get as a citizen of this nation.
What if I think the system is illegitimate?
Well, then you don't get to be a citizen of the system. Get the fuck out.
Wow.
Fuck you. You don't get to reap the benefits of a system if you think the system is illegitimate. If you think the system is illegitimate, what's the term when you denounce your citizenship?
You realize that costs like $3,000, right?
Yeah, fix that too. While we're at it. If I wanted to denounce my citizenship...
Sure, while we have our fairy wands out.
Yeah, while we have them out. While we're imagining things. Fix that system. Damn it. If I want to be able to denounce my citizenship and go live in international waters on a boat for the rest of my goddamn life and be beholden to no government, I should be able to goddamn well do that. And it should not cost me $3,000 goddamn dollars to do so. Though, admittedly, at that point, I would just pull out a quick loan, pay it off, and then disappear into international waters. So, I mean, in the end, really, who cares?
Yeah.
Who's going to collect debts for me? Good luck finding me. I'll be somewhere in the South Pacific between islands.
Changed my name.
I'm just saying, we don't give...
Undergone budget reconstructive surgery in
We don't give...
Hong Kong.
We don't require enough of citizens of nations anymore, I think. And I think it's a major issue in our system, the concept that you can be a citizen and reap the benefits of being a citizen of a nation and not have to participate in that system that gives you those benefits as much as you damn well should be able to.
I mean,
you should have to.
I'm sympathetic to that. Like, I feel you, but also, fuck the entire concept of nation states.
Well, yeah, if we're gonna go all the way to the end of it, if we're gonna just keep going with these fairy ones and just keep going through the full trend of it, yeah, I mean, fuck nation states as a whole thing. Just don't worry, they're collapsing anymore. They're not really. Nation states are gonna keep sticking around. I mean, hell, they're getting stronger.
They're getting stronger.
Nationalism is on the rise again, which solidifies nation states.
Eventually, will be entirely controlled by vast transnational corporations.
Go team. I'm just saying. Vote.
Who's ready for the next Republican presidential candidate to run on a platform of giving votes to Google?
Yeah. What do you think Pepsi's gonna do? Who would they run? Who would Pepsi run?
I don't know. Someone with a stupid fucking name like Big Brain McGee.
There you go. Full idiocracy here. Why not?
Why not?
Why the fuck not? Now back to a real land.
Right, the fucking 2020 election.
Right. Okay, let's go.
Okay, assuming my most pessimistic estimates
right
of the inherent inelasticity of the American political system are wrong, Bernie Sanders is going to win.
Okay.
And
which
if it's
is
not him,
my base starting point.
And if it's not him, then it'll be fucking Joe.
I think at the very least right now, as far as I see things going, I'm declaring it now. I'm predicting that Bernie Sanders is going to at least win the primary, and go on to challenge Trump, as he should have fucking done in 2016. But Hillary was on her. Hillary just knew for a fact that this was the last chance she was ever going to get. So they all were bullshitty to do it because they were all weird, desperate idiots who were like, oh no, but I'll never become president if I don't get it this time. I don't actually know what she sounds like. I'm just mocking her. God, I hate Hillary. Anyway, I think Bernie Sanders is going to win. I think Bernie Sanders is going to win the primary and challenge Trump, because I don't think the Republicans are going to be. The Republicans definitely aren't going to get their shit together enough to put anyone besides Trump up, because they've spent this entire last 2 years doing everything they can to suck his dick, and they're not going to try to get rid of him now. Which I think is a mistake on their part, because Trump is doing more to hurt them than he is to help them.
I think,
as the midterms showed,
that if Bernie Sanders clinches the nom, he will stomp Trump.
You think so? I mean, I think so too. But
because even working class Republicans, which, despite the New York Times and the WAPO telling us otherwise, only make up about like a third, maybe, of Trump's base.
Yeah.
As long as they're not blatant anti-Semites, will vote for Bernie.
Right.
Because what they care about is jobs.
Yeah.
Good jobs.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for, like, the other two-thirds, like the rich idiots and the, like, very serious suburbanites.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think that working class people know a good deal when they hear one.
Yeah. And I think,
even if they might be a little credulous.
And I think the problem with the 2016 election was they heard a good deal from Trump. And remember, Trump's entire image is not based on what's actually real. It's based on he got famous as a successful businessman.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's what they were sold, and that's what they when they looked at Trump, they saw a successful businessman, which means he'll be good at getting them the jobs and what they wanted.
Yeah.
But these last 4 years have done nothing if not demonstrate that that's not actually what he is, and he's his persona of his celebrity of a good businessman falls apart when he is actually tasked to do the thing, because he's never had a successful business. They've never actually succeeded.
Yeah.
Every single one of his businesses have failed and gone bankrupt. And he's gone bankrupt several times.
I think the other really big thing is that
Whereas with Bernie Sanders...
A lot of working class voters in 2016 kind of existed in this nihilistic space where, well, maybe Trump isn't promising anything like that will really happen, but at least he is promising something.
Whereas Hillary wasn't doing jack shit for anybody. But I think
nothing but mealy-mouthed
I think
platitudes.
another reason why Bernie Sanders has that decent chance is he doesn't have that basic celebrity status of anything. All he has is his record of his time in Congress and as a person. Yeah. And you look at the entire thing, and it's just 100% set in stone, consistent, constant towards his goals and and what he's been trying to do his entire time there. There's no point, and sure, he hasn't succeeded, but he also hasn't failed at any point enough to be able to point to say, well, look where Bernie Sanders failed. Yeah. You also can't point and say, well, look where Bernie Sanders succeeded, but you can look and say Bernie Sanders has been consistently trying to do the same thing, and he's going to want to continue doing that same thing in the White House. But there, he'll be in a position of power enough to actually accomplish his goals.
That I think Sanders has on his side is that the Democratic and Republican establishments have spent a lot of time and effort trying to paint Bernie Sanders as this, like, horrific, ravening socialist.
Right. Which he just isn't.
Well, he's not.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
We like that kind of, we like that.
There are a lot of Republicans, or maybe not Republicans, but like there is a certain segment of voters who hear this man is a radical, horrible threat to everything there is, and be like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, fuck yeah. The system is completely fucked and illegitimate. Let's toss someone like him up to get rid of it.
Just burn it to the ground.
Bernie Sanders will help us burn it to the ground. Fuck it. Hey, if that's what gets him elected, I'll take it.
And there is, like, literally a segment of people who hear the mainstream calling someone a monster, and be like, yeet.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Fuck it. If it gets him elected, it gets him votes.
Another one of the reasons Trump got elected.
Again, no, that's exactly what I remember. So I have a boss who's Republican, and he supports Trump, and he's supported Trump this entire time. And every time I asked him about it, and I never got too deep into it with him because he's my boss and I like my job. I like my job a lot. But it's because his reasoning was always he's not a politician. He's going to change. He's going to make the system not what it is right now because he's from outside the system.
Yeah.
It's always been he's the not part of the system person that's going to come in and break the system in favor of the voters rather than the messed up system it is.
And I don't think that's true.
It's not, obviously.
And I don't think it's really true of Bernie either.
No, Bernie Sanders likes this. I mean, not necessarily likes, but he works within the system and he understands the system. And he's going to work within the system again. Bernie Sanders' problem is he's never quite had enough political power to accomplish his goals.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that I don't think he does still. I don't think he will if he is elected.
I think his election and what his abilities to be able to do something is going to be heavily dependent. I think a lot of it is. So one thing that I'm hopeful for, if he gets elected, is the fact that he's a man of convictions and stat. Yeah, we're going long, but this was always an inevitable.
Yeah.
We were always going to start going longer and longer as time went on.
Yeah.
As long as we have a hard limit. So, but my thinking is he understands the system to a point where once he gets to become president, once he's president and he has that power and that position, he's going to know how to use it. And because he knows how the system works in and out. He's spent his entire career being the person that sits there and goes and talks to all the different people and sets up these massive deals behind the scenes. He understands that on a fundamental level. And I think as president, he's going to know probably better than almost any president we've had in recent years how that functions and how to make it happen. To use a reference to the West Wing, he's like he understands it on the level of like Josh Lyman understood the comic thing. And I think he's going to be able to use it. And it is going to take, I think, a swell again in the election of changing, Congress and the Senate. I think we will need a little bit more shifting in there as well. But I think if he does get elected, that alone will give it more power, because suddenly everyone in those positions who are sitting there are going to say, "Oh shit, the times are changing." And we can no longer just be against everything, because otherwise we're going to get replaced with people like Bernie Sanders, and because we've just shown that Bernie Sanders' ideas have enough power to get you replaced.
Yeah,
I mean we saw it again back to the midterms. We didn't see it as much as we wanted to. We wanted a full sweep, but the wave was blue.
Yeah.
And we demonstrated that this can happen, and the presidential election is orders of magnitude larger than the midterms enough that I think you'll see it actually happen the way we wanted it to for the midterms. Because, I mean, we did get change. I mean, AOC got elected. How the fuck did that happen?
I'm honestly more amazed by Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, that too. One thing I do like about those is...
How did we get an outspoken liberal Muslim in Congress? What?
I think one thing I do like about... I was actually looking at those midterms and looking at people like that is, again, Trump effect of making us all suddenly a lot more politically aware because we saw what happens when we're not. Trump gets elected. And like I said, the Great Depression made everyone sit up and notice, we have to pay more attention to how our government, how our country is running, because otherwise, if we just let it keep going without caring, it leads to this. We saw if we keep going, Trump happens, and I like that we're all suddenly paying attention. Like AOC, Omar, we're paying attention to what's going on in Congress outside of the presidency. We care. We give a fuck again, and we're actually looking at Congress and saying, "Oh wow, there are people in that. People exist there." And they can do things that we like, and they can do things that we don't like, and we can do something about that.
I've seen more images and videos of the House chambers in the last, 3 months than I saw my entire life up to that point.
Yeah.
Which is astonishing.
We're paying attention again.
It's not just that I'm paying attention.
Not us. I mean, we as a people.
Yeah, but I mean, it's... Now things are actually happening that are newsworthy in the House.
That too. that too. But there's our presidential predictions. I think Bernie Sanders is going to win. He's pretty sure Trump is going to rule us forever and turn us into a dictatorship.
God Emperor Trump will rule us all as slaves.
Speak for yourself. I'm hopping on a boat to international waters.